What's going on, family? What's going on? How you doing? Welcome back. It's Tuesday again. It's Tuesday again. I hope you guys have had a great weekend. I did. Had a good weekend, and I rested some. Sometimes I get into the habit of just doing too much. Do I have any cousins, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters that you just doing too much? So at some point on Saturday, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna sit in this bed, relax, and watch some Netflix and just enjoy myself. I think it's very necessary. It's very necessary to get your rest. If you don't get rest, you're no good. You know what I'm saying? If you don't get your rest, you're just no good. So make sure you get your rest. All right. So that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about tonight. Just wanted to say that. Thank you so much for rocking with me, joining me. Thank you for those who have subscribed. And for those of you who are just, watching from afar, it's cool. If you subscribe, you do. If you don't, that's cool too. I'm not here for likes and subscribes, but I am here to give impact. If somebody subscribes as a result of that, something I'm saying that is really good for you, then great, by all means. I'm truly believe that we are people that will either plant or water. God adds the increase. I'm either going to plant something or water something. I don't hold a patent to make you say you have to stay. You know how they do in some churches. You can't go nowhere. You have to stay here forever. You got to be a member for 45 years until you die. No, that's not how I'm rolling. And I mean, I'm no shots taken to churches that operate like that. Family is family. When you see your family go, it's kind of hard. And the healthy way to let someone go is to just love them enough to say, you know what, God bless you. Thank you for the time that you were here. And I bless you as you go. So again, that's not even part of what I'm talking about tonight. But obviously that needed to be said for whoever's going to hear this later on, a month from now, a year from now, whatever. All right. So we now return to our regularly scheduled program already in progress. That is a borrowed saying. And yeah, appreciate that. So what about the children? So in this space of what I'm talking about, relationships, in him with us for all, I want to focus on kind of the for all part. And the for all part includes our children. As you see, I got my pictures in the back. I got my two sons back here. Because children are important, and children, they do a lot for us, and they do a lot with us, and they do a lot because of us. Our children are impacted by everything we do, everything we say, where we go, the way we do things. There are things that I remember right now that I'm reminded of when I was a kid. Matter of fact, me and my sister, we was laughing today because she sent me this TikTok. And in this TikTok, she was showing me this TikTok where this woman was beating her child. Well, not beating the child. She was helping the child with the homework. And she was like, if this person had this amount and then somebody gave them this amount, what is the answer? And the kid is like, and they just say a wrong answer. And then, the mom just goes clear off and get mad. Now you have to watch it yourself. I'm sure you can find it. It's hilarious because I've had moments where I remember my mother's asking me a question on my dad, and I'm just like, "Ooh, I don't want to get in trouble." So you just saying whatever. It's 6, and you're not even thinking because you just want to get the answer wrong. But that's just what happens in some of our families, where when you know you're about to be in trouble, you just start lying. You just start saying, well, I was, and they just look at you and they just like, now you know you wrong. Just go get the belt. Go get the belt because you about to get a whooping right now. But that's not the best way to parent people. It's not. Let's try to be more functional as we're loving our kids. But I wanted to talk about children as it relates to us doing relationships because there's so much to say. So yeah, I titled it "What About the Children?" because children are a very big part of our existence, especially when you get married and children come, or whether you had children outside of wedlock. I don't care about all of that stuff. I'm just saying we have children, y'all. And these children are watching. Yes, children are a blessing from the Lord. So no matter how they arrived, um, they're yours. You know what I'm saying? And no matter how they got here, they was his before they were yours. And so because if you have that understanding that they was his first, then how they got here into the world, if you focus so much on that, oh my God, I had a child out of wedlock, and just no, I'm not here to condemn anybody. I'm not. That's not my goal. Um, I just want to encourage you, admonish you that look, we got some kids, man, and these children are depending on us, and we want to give to them our best so that they can be their best. So, about a few lives ago, I was doing this series called The League of Relationships, and I was talking about how the two of you can be a couple. Like, what kind of couple do you want to be? And I started breaking that thing down in terms of years. I'm going to take a portion of that and apply it to you and me as a parent. So from years 1 to 5, I said that you're going to be growing and learning. So when the baby is born, it's just like, oh my God, they look like me, they look like you, they so cute, they smell, they got that baby's breath. Do you remember? Oh God, do you remember when your baby had that baby saliva and they just everywhere they went, it's just saliva, saliva, saliva. And you would hold them and they could barely hold their head and put their head on your nose and they get saliva all on your face. You just like, ugh, ugh. I mean, it's a good thing you my child because you don't even let regular people just slob on your face. It's just you remember when they just kept you up all night and they were just crying and crying. You just like, Lord, please let me go to sleep. I remember my firstborn. I'm sitting there walking around holding him like I'm making up songs. That's the kind of dad I was. I'm making up songs. Matter of fact, when they were in the womb, I was singing to them in the womb. I'm looking at the little belly and I'm just singing songs and just saying all kinds of stuff. Because by the time they came out, they knew I was daddy. They were like, yeah, that's daddy. They could be, ah! Daddy go, hey, and they go, I know that voice. Hey, so from years 1 to 5, you're exploring, what I'm saying? You're growing and learning. They're growing and they're learning. They're learning what they can get away with and they're learning what they can't get away with. Terrible 2s and 3s. Some kids, they just use that cry because they know mama gonna come running or daddy gonna come running. It's just, and so that's just how it is. And then from ages 6 to 10, you're starting to do and raise. They're going to school, they're starting to get integrated with other kids. They start learning other habits. They get sick as soon as they go to school. They get sick. They start feeling it. They start, they touch their mouth and touch somebody else, and then they come home and touch you and get you sick. I remember when my son went to elementary school. I'm like, why am I sick? And I realized, you know what? Them germy kids. I should have went in there with some hand sanitizer and was like, look, don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm only touching my kid. I know them. I don't know y'all. So please don't touch me. Mr. Marvin. I'm like, okay, how you doing? Like, okay, okay. But from 6 to 10 years old, you're doing and you're raising, they're learning things, right? And then I said 16 to 20, you're starting to launch and you're starting to have impact. When they're 16 years old, you're starting to get them ready for the world. So there's some pre-launch activities and there's some real launch activities where they learn how to drive. Like my oldest son now, he has his permit and he's learning how to drive and he's doing pretty good. And then I'm starting to, I want to launch him, but I also have the most impact during that time because he's about to leave the nest. Like 18 years old, he's about to leave. I'm gonna be at graduation. Like, that's my son. He was just this small. Oh my God. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. He did this program last week and took a picture. He had on a white coat, and I'm like, oh my Lord. I wasn't ready for that, y'all. Like, look, I'm just gonna tell y'all, I'm a crybaby. I cried everything. But this firstborn, y'all gonna have to pray for me. Y'all just gonna have to pray for me. But that's 16 to 20. Like, man, he's 17 now, and that's him on that side. That's him on that side. But he's growing, and I'm just so proud of him. Now from ages 21 to 30, I was saying that you need to kind of reframe and retool. And so they are reframing their own life and they are kind of retooling their own life. They're trying to figure out, what am I doing? Where am I going? I studied this, I'm doing that. And then from 31 to 40, there's, I said on that live, remission and restarting. And so the mission for them at that point is probably they're starting a family. So you think about it, like, man, when they're in there somewhere between 20s and 30s, they get married, they have kids. So there's a mission. Now they have not just what they want to do in life, but now they have little ones to think about, and they're actually starting anew, but in a different season. I hope that makes sense. Um, and so, as a parent, I want you to know that it doesn't matter where you started. It's more important about where you finish and where they also end up. When you release them, you have given them as much as you can give them. And I don't want you to feel bad, be like, man, I did a terrible job. Or maybe you feel great, like, man, I've really been handling it. And so, if that's the case, boom, fist bump to you. You know, all of us have areas of improvement. Okay. And so I've heard this saying, I'm gonna copy it, I'm gonna borrow it, and I'm gonna use it. You know, most of our children learn not from taught lessons, but caught lessons. I'll say that again. Most of your children will learn not from taught lessons, but from caught lessons. What do we mean by that? Basically, the things that they see is the things that they will do. You know, this is don't somebody would say, do as I say, but they're not going to do as you say. They may, but they're going to do more of what they see you do than what you say. Yeah. They're going to do what you do. Oh, daddy did that. Yeah, I'm going to do that too. Mommy did that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, mommy, you did it. Oh, dad, I'm saying you did the same thing. I mean, I don't understand what the problem is. Like, you say that, you might get stolen your jaw for real. But like, what? Did you, excuse me? Boy, did you sass me? What you say there, boy? Yeah. I'm thankful that I don't have sassy boys, but they don't like buck at me. I think because they know I pop them upside the head. I'm not advocating beating your kids to a degree. Spare the rod, don't spoil the child. Okay. Do not report me. Do not report me. Just don't play with me. All right. Um, so yeah, their lessons are not necessarily lessons that they were taught by you. They're more so lessons that they caught by just watching you. And some of those things are good and some of those things are bad. Listen, fam, that's all a part of parenting. None of us came into this parenting thing with a book. There was no basic instructions for raising your child, for your daughter, for your son. There was no basic instructions. You were doing the best that you could based on what was modeled before you and what you're now learning. And so, like moms, when they first have their child, they're like, they're like, oh my God, like they're like, Jesus, I don't know how to do this. I feel like a terrible mother. I don't know how to do this. And they call them mom. And the mother's like, listen, you're gonna be fine. But he won't stop crying. He won't stop crying. She won't stop crying. And then some mothers, they have daughters that's little bossy daughters. That's a whole other thing. They be like, and the father be like, no, don't. But they're still learning from you, from things that they are catching. So, with that in mind, just consider that they are really paying attention to you. And you know what? The great thing is, the funny thing is, when they have kids, they're going to find themselves saying the very same thing. They're going to be like, man, I sound like my mother. Oh, I sound like my dad. All right, so let's talk about arrows. So there's a scripture in the Bible. It's in Psalms. I'm just going to start from Psalms 127, verse 3. It says, behold, children are an inheritance from the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are children of one's youth. And so it says that they were heritage, they were a reward, they're an arrow. And then it also further on goes on to say, happy is the man, right? Whose quiver is full. If you got a whole bunch of kids, you are happy. Some men may beg to differ. They're like, man, I ain't got no money. Like, I'm broke. I ain't got it. Well, if you're taking care of your kids, then you're doing the best thing that you're supposed to be doing. So hats off to you for all the fathers that's handling your business, taking care of your kids. Look, man, I salute you straight up. I salute you, man, because Father's Day is not enough to receive the honor that is due you. But from this father to a father, man, I salute you. Definitely. All right. And so just considering what is an arrow? An arrow, nobody's really practicing archery. But if you understand what an arrow is, the purpose of an arrow is to hit a target. And so with your children, if your children are an arrow, you're supposed to aim them. So that pulling that arrow back, and you're pulling the tension, that tension is those moments that you have with your son or your daughter, where you have to kind of give them a harsh lesson, or you have to give them encouraging lesson. All of those things coupled together is a part of you preparing to launch them. But the tip of that arrow has to be sharp so it can cut through the air, and it has to have a stem that will allow the tip to move forward and actually hit its target. And if you pull back enough with enough tension, if you aim it properly and you release it and let it go, it'll go exactly where you intended it to go. Now, when your children are in their teenage years, they don't want to be fashioned for nothing. They like, man, I ain't trying to listen to you. I'm bothered. I'm feeling rebellious. They're gonna go do all of that stuff. But just keep living. Just keep being you. Keep being the parent that you have to be. And know it's not popular. Sometimes they're gonna get on your everlasting nerve, and sometimes they're not. When my firstborn was son, he said, you know what? This guy said to me, you know what? Some days your children, they'll get on your nerves, but then later on they'll get on your heart. And I was like, wow, that's pretty profound. They get on your nerves and they get on your heart. And so every time I see my dad, when I'm getting ready to leave, he be trying so hard not to cry. I could see it, and he just be like, okay. And then when I drive away, he probably be in the corner like doing a shoulder shake cry, but it's all right. I mean, my dad loves me. I love him too. And I'll be, true story. I'll be holding it in as well. I'd be like, oh Lord. All right, let me get on this road. Let me see him. All right, Pa, I love you. See you soon. Um, and I mean, fathers need that. Fathers need sons, sons need fathers. But we are arrows. We are supposed to be aimed and launched to hit a target, right? And to be able to watch that process happen, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Um, And so, what about the children? What about the children? We want to make sure that we are um, doing our best to be what we need to be for Him first, so that He can fashion them through watching us. Because again, like I said, it's not the taught ones more so than it is the caught ones. And so, what is it? He says, "If I be lifted up, I'll draw all men unto me." So, if you let God take you through what you need to go through, and let Him continue to change you, they'll see that. They'll see when dad made a major mistake and blew it. They'll see that, man, dad made a mistake. And when they see you try to recover, then they say, okay, I know what to do when hard times come. Same thing for you mothers. When you make mistakes, it's okay. Your children, they need to see it. They need to see the good, the bad, the ugly. And when they see you bounce forward from the ugly, when they have the ugly moments, they'll remember, you know what? My mom went through some ugly moments and she made it through. So I can make it through too. That's the caught lessons that we're talking about here. Let them catch those. Let them see you when you feel like you broke, busted, disgusted, and you don't know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? So when you have those hard moments, bring them into those as well. And when you have those great moments where major things is happening for you, promotions and you killing it, bring them into the celebration of that. Bring them into the celebration, but also bring them into the adjustment that you need to make when things aren't going the way that you would have wanted it to go. All right. So you and I have a responsibility. I'm gonna flip it real quick. It's not that you and I have a responsibility. We ought to respond to their ability. Let that sink in. Respond to their ability. What is going on with your child? What is it? What is so unique about your child? Have you noticed the gifts that your children have? Have you noticed that they can draw, they can laugh, they can do math really well, they do science really well. They may be creators, they may be science geeks, they may be really good at speaking. They may be your children will tell you when they're very young who they potentially may become if you pay attention to it. Pay attention to it. And then if you still don't see it, say, God, who is my child? Who am I raising? Am I raising the next CEO? Am I raising another lawyer? Am I raising a preacher? Am I raising a doctor, a teacher? Am I raising a firefighter, man? Am I raising a policeman? Am I raising a future father? Am I raising a future mother? Who am I raising? Because what they catch is what they're going to do. So whatever they see in you is what they're going to multiply and duplicate. And that's not to make you feel bad or to put you on negative notice or anything. I just want you to recognize what is at stake. Okay. I'm contending for the children tonight. I'm contending for the children tonight. So, mom and dad, get your stuff together. Yeah, I said it. Get your stuff together so that they can get their stuff together. Respond to their ability, because if you respond to that, then you can nurture it. If you can nurture it, then you can help them sharpen it. If they can sharpen it, then you can aim them and they can hit the target of what they desire to do. Okay. Quick story. So you remember God asked Moses, he asked Moses, what is that in your hand? God was like, look, Don't send me. Don't send me. I can't even talk eloquent. God tried to do everything he could to not do what God was asking him to do in that moment. He's like, Lord, do you have to choose me? Do I have to be the one to go? Right. And he says, what is it that you have in your hand? A staff. I said, yeah. Take the staff, throw it down. He sees something happen with the staff. Pick it up. Goes back to normal. The point I'm trying to make in that is what is in your hand when it comes to your children is something powerful and unique. What is in your hand is something that God wants to use. What is in your hand is something that he had already had intimacy and connection with before he even got to you. He says, before I formed you in your mother's womb, I set you apart. So before mom and dad, your son or daughter was given to you, they were already with him. So what do you have in your hand, parents? Think about it. It's something powerful. You know, you think a staff is this rod, but a staff is also a group of people that get things done. What is your child supposed to do in the earth? A staff has multiple uses, right? And God's goal is to use them as an arrow in the hand of you, the parent warrior. Are you tracking with me? Are you tracking with me? So it says over here, like an arrow in the hand of a warrior, so are children of one's youth. So if your child is an arrow and if you are the warrior, then that makes you the parent warrior. That makes you the parent that's going to fashion this young warrior to go and do what he needs to do. So there is a responsibility you have, and you have to respond to their ability so that they can go to where they need to go. As iron sharp as iron, one man sharp as another, right? Sharpen your daughter, sharpen your son, teach them the way that they should go, and they will get there. So, however you have begotten your children, however they gotten here, they are not under your care. I don't care if you got them out of wedlock. I don't care if you got them in wedlock. If they were adopted, if you got them by marriage and they weren't your biological children, you have bonus children. I have bonus children. If you have gotten them because someone passed away, they went on to be with the Lord or something, and now they're not your blood, but they're your children. If you got them by birth, you birthed them out of your physical body, mothers. Thank God for you. However you've gotten them, fashion them, sharpen them, so that you can send them. I wrote here earlier, children, they are a blessing, they are a burden, then you have to build them, and then they have to break away. Right? They're your blessing, a little bundle of joy. And then you start feeling like they're a burden because it takes some work to help a child get from here to there. You have to kind of stay on them. They may not be so disciplined as a young teenager, but if you stay on them, when they get to college, they're gonna be like, you know what? I remember my dad was getting on me all the time to be a self-disciplined person. And so now I realized that he was on me so much to the point where I got tired of wanting to hear his mouth that I just did it. So every time he said, did you do it? Yep. Did you do it? Yep. Boom, this done, this done. So you get to college and they just killing it. They just breezing through it. And they got classmates or friends that they're in college. They may not be as disciplined. They was partying and now they're like 7 lessons behind because they was not disciplined. And so it says, the scripture says, we've all had human fathers who disciplined us as they thought best, but it produced righteousness for those who were trained by it. And okay, look, fam, I get it. Some of us didn't have fathers. Some of us didn't have earthly fathers to really father us. But if you ask God, he'll give you a father in your season that you're living in right now, and they will help father you. I have men, not just my biological, but other men who have fathered me in certain moments where I was just like, oh man, I really needed that. And that doesn't diminish who my earthly father is because he was great. But sometimes there's another father that needs to come in and teach you something different. Sometimes another father needs to wound you enough so that you don't hold it against them. Because if they wound you, it says the wounds of a, what is it, Lord? The wounds of a friend can be trusted, but an enemy will multiply kisses. So you don't need somebody kissing your butt. Sometimes you need to tell something. Sometimes you need somebody to tell you, get your butt up. Get up. Get up. When I was teaching my son how to ride a bike, he was maybe like 5, 6 years old. He had training wheels on it. I said, okay, we're taking the training wheels off. Took the training wheels off. All right, we're gonna learn. He was like, okay. And he was nervous, y'all. He was nervous. And I'm sitting here, he's holding the handlebars, and I'm saying, pedal, pedal, come on, pedal, 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 pedal. And I will hold the back seat and then I will let it go. And I will watch him ride. I'll say, pedal, pedal, pedal faster. At first, he wasn't pedaling as fast. I said, listen, you got to pedal, because when he didn't pedal fast enough, he started to fall. And there was one time that same day he fell hard, like boom. I said, come here, come here, come here. I said, come here. I hugged him. I said, I know, but you got to get back on there, right? He was like, okay, okay. I said, who controls the bike? I control the bike. Who controls the bike? I control the bike. So he gets on the bike. I said, all right, come on, pedal, pedal. And he fell again. I said, get up, get up. Come on, get up. Let's go. Do it. Let's go. Let's try it again. Pedal some more. Pedal some more. Boom. Eventually, after the third try, he was gone. He's gone. He was like, Daddy, look, I'm doing it. I said, you doing it, buddy. Who controls the bike? I control the bike. I could have cried. It was great. But there was moments where I encouraged him, but there was also moments where I had to let him actually feel it. I'm like, you know what, son, you can fall hard and you can still get up and keep going. And so that's what dads do. That's what mothers do. If the father's not there and mom, you got to go to the game, you say, listen, get up. Yeah, you got hit hard on the football field. Listen, get up. You say their first name and their last name, their whole government name. And when they hear that, they're like, okay, I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, my mom told me to get up. I'm on this field now, coach. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. That's what mom does, because mothers and fathers, they have to reach into that part of them that says, no, you're greater than this moment. Get up and move, and it'll be well. And when the time comes, they got to break away. They got to break away. You got to launch them. You got to let them go. And it's one of the hardest things. My bonus daughter went to college last year, and the day that she was taking off, we prayed, and man, I hugged her. I was like, man, I said, I'm gonna miss you. And I would always tease her and be like, what do you think I'm gonna do when we drop you off to college? She was like, you're gonna cry. I'm like, yep. And lo and behold, hug, and I'm just like, but when you love your kids, you just love your kids. That's just how it is. I'm almost done, y'all. So I was saying, it doesn't matter how they've gotten here. They're still under your care. And, for blended families, that has a different dynamic of what you have to deal with. And yeah, it's not always easy, but you know what? And I'll probably talk about this another time, but Jesus was in a blended family. Stay tuned for that. Train up the child in the way that they should go. We've all heard this, right? Train up a child in the way that they should go, and when they get older, they will not depart. But if you're in it right now, you still got to continue to train them by what you see and what you don't see, by what they need to know now and what they need to know later. What they need to know later is the lessons that you're teaching them now. You got to teach them lessons for the lesson that they need to be able to understand 10 years from now. You say, son, when you get this age, you need to think about this. When you get to around this age, you need to think about that. I sat my sons down and I said, listen, let's talk about the next 20 years. I said, in 10 years, you'll be this age, you'll be this age, you'll be here, you'll be there, I will be here. I said, I'm going to be 60 something years old. They're going to be like, Dad, you're going to be old. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to be a silver fox. It's starting to come in now. You see that? Yeah, whatever. It's salt and pepper now. But train them up in the way they should go, but not the way that you went exactly. What do I mean by that? Myself included, I'm chief. Look, I'm chief. Your Honor, I did it. Not the way that you went. And the way that I went and some of the way that you went was not the way that you want them to go. So whatever that is, and I'm not trying to bring conviction or make anybody feel bad in what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that, look, we know that we've made decisions that, you know what? Like, man, I wish I would have done that differently. And you can talk to your child and say, listen, son, listen, daughter. Yeah, don't go that way. I want you to be able to make these decisions and go forward. So that's how you train them up, in not in the way that they should go, but not the way that you necessarily went. And there's some ways that you went that you say, look, if you do boom, 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 this will happen. And they can trust that because they see that in your life. Um, I think I said this earlier, but I'll say it like this. Your walk is imperfect. So show them his steps. Your children have already seen your steps. Show your children his steps. Because it says the steps of a good man are what? Ordered by the Lord. So if they choose to follow in his steps, then their steps will be ordered, even if they make a mess up. God already knows. Look, he already knows that you're going to take 10 steps in the right direction and you're going to take 2 steps to the left that's in the wrong direction. You may even turn around and he's like, Father, this boy over here. Father, this girl over here. I told this girl. This is your heavenly Father talking to his Father. Jesus is like, do you see this? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So which contingency plan are we going to use, Father? We're going to use contingency plan number 7 because she already then blew through the first 5. So you know what? He's like, you know what? It's okay. I would that all come to repentance and not perish. So it's just in my nature. And my mercy is always going to be extended. Brand new mercies is given every day. So look, fam, I don't care what you did. I don't care what you're doing right now. He says, my mercy it endures. It endures. Just a few warnings, and we're almost out of here. Don't perpetuate the culture of foolishness. Whatever foolishness you and I grew up in, do not perpetuate that in the next generation. Like, listen, we know better. I think Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. Sometimes you know better and you still don't want to do better. You perpetuating foolishness, fam. Don't. It's not worth it. My sister would appreciate this if I say this. You teach them, but your school, they reinforces it. So if you teach good manners, your teachers don't have to teach them good manners. They can just reinforce it. When they get a little giggly and say, okay, you know what your mama taught you. You know what your daddy taught you. Do I need to call your dad? I used to hate when they say, look, I'll call your dad. And you're like, oh no. Okay. I was afraid. I'm like, please don't call my dad. See how big my hand is? My father's hand was just as big as mine, but for some reason, they just seemed stronger. He used to pick cotton with his mom back in the day, so he has some tough hands. I'm telling you, if he spanked you on your butt would fall off. Just pow. And he would do these things called "Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you?" My mother, she would do it every hand. She would do every hit with every hand. I told you not to do that. Do you hear me? I don't know. Somebody is finding this funny. I'm just saying. But you learn from those things. It didn't necessarily traumatize me, but it was good for me. If your ancestors, your most recent relatives that were not here, let's say we go back 30 years, if they stood before you, what they say that they are proud of you of how you're handling life, how you're handling those children, because there's some things that they endured in their life, and when they saw your face, there was hope and promise in your little smiley face, your little Julie face. Are you making them proud? You do hope to see them one day, right? So make them proud. I can go on a whole tangent about how folk is conducting themselves up in the club. If our ancestors who went through slavery could see us now, would they be proud? I don't know. We're supposed to be parent warriors. So warrior, prepare your child for the world they're going to be a part of that one day you won't be. You must sharpen them. You must prepare them because the world is getting crazier and crazier. And not to go on a political rant, the condition of what a child experiences in school has a major effect on how they enter the world. Major. Trauma is real, but you don't have to let it linger or grow. You know what I'm saying? Yes, there is PTSD, there's arrested development, and then there's my personal favorite, there's rod deficiency. Yep. Some children, they have PTSD, that's post-traumatic stress disorder. They've experienced something, and it's just like people who've gone to military war, they have PTSD. It still messes with their mind, right? Arrested Development, something traumatic happens, and that moment it's almost like you're frozen at 5 years old. And anytime that comes up in your adulthood, you go back to the little girl or to that little boy, and you're just like, man, I just don't know. I can't quite get past this. And then there's rod deficiency. You're like, what in the world is rod deficiency? Rod deficiency. You're supposed to spare the rod, not spoil the child, right? And so utilize the rod. If they are deficient in the rod, they're going to be hell to deal with when they become adults. You ain't going to tell them nothing. And I'm not saying beat them with the rod. Sometimes the rod of instruction is what's needed. Sometimes the rod of love is what's needed. If they know that every time they mess up, you're going to hug them, that's a rod. They can measure that. When I make mistakes, this rod of love is going to take me forward. If they need a whooping, then you give them a whooping. You just, you can take things away. Okay, you don't know how to act. Okay, that's taken away. That's taken away. That's taken away. I'm gonna take all of this stuff out of your room. You want to play? They come home, PlayStation gone, Switch gone, gaming is gone, all of that stuff. They're like, wait a minute, where's Mom? Somebody took my stuff. And you'd be like, no, nobody took it. Well, where is it, Mom? I got it. Why? Because since you don't want to act right in school, it's mine until further notice. And it's like, sometimes you have to give them the rod of discipline enough that you take something from them so that they can recognize it. It is hell on earth, especially today, for kids not to be able to have access to their friends through the video games. If they can't play the video game, it's like the world is over. It ain't like how I was growing up. You go outside, you don't come back till the street lights come on, and you was good. You come in, drink some Kool-Aid, some water, run right back out. Now it's just a different landscape. But the rod deficiency, you need to kind of make sure that they're not malnourished. They need that rod because, like I said earlier, it produces righteousness for those who have been trained by it. It produces a rightness of how they conduct themselves. There's nothing like when grown adults are interviewing young adults and they hear them talking. They say, oh, wow, you're very well spoken. Oh, wow, you really carry themselves. Well, I can tell your parents really raised you right, because them other jokers, he like, I don't know where they grew up. And it doesn't matter. It's not based on economical status, because the ones in the suburbs sometimes is worse, just as worse as the ones in the hood. So I'm not making any correlations of one economical stance is better than the other. Doesn't matter. They both have equal amount. Okay, I'm just leveling the playing field here. Equal amount. That rod deficiency, you need to take that up a notch. You know what I'm saying? Take it up a notch. And for those who's handling their business, look, I salute you. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Thank you that there will be a young adults coming into the world that has sense. And they can help the ones that don't quite have sense. They'll just help them along. They say, okay, you acting like a plum fool. Come on, let me help you. My mama taught me this. Let me teach you some lessons that my mom's taught me. Let me teach you some lessons that my dad taught me. Let me teach you about some of the things that you may not have known. And sometimes as a young adult and you become grown, you realize there's things nobody taught me. And you get a little bothered. You're like, Dad, why you ain't telling me this? Mom, why you ain't telling me this? Why didn't you teach me? Teach me how to Dougie. Teach me how to Dougie. I don't know. This song came out by Yolanda Adams. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. The chorus says, what about the children to ignore is so easy? So many innocent children will choose the wrong way. So what about the children? Remember when we were children? And if not for those who loved us and who cared enough to show us, where would we be today? So I'll leave you with that. The ones that's doing it, keep doing it. And where you may need to tighten it up, be included. Be included. You know what I'm saying? So yes, build your marriage, build your relationship, whatever relationship status you're in, it doesn't matter, right? That's why I said divorce, married, single, complicated, all of that stuff. Decide that, you know what, as I move forward, I'm going to do better. I know better. I'll do better. And they will thrive because I'm thriving. Okay. So I appreciate you for rocking with me tonight. Thank so much. I think this was good. I think there's another part to this. I think there's going to be an additional part. Jesus, what did I say? Jesus and the blended family. Yeah, that might be next. We'll see. We'll see. But until then, thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for rocking with me. God bless you, and you have a good night.